Hey guys, Doman here with another video. That's right, we're going to be talking about civilian capital ships. Basically, these are the industrial ships that are designed for entrepreneurial use and whatnot. So yeah, let's jump right in and get started. As always, we will be doing this from the smallest to the biggest. So without further ado, let's get going. So we're gonna start off with the smallest as always here, and this is the mighty Reclaimer. Yes, that's right, this thing is a big ship. As you may know already, it's already in the game, it's flying around, but its salvage mechanics as of the making of this video are not currently implemented. But we're gonna go into more details about this ship and basically what's the type of stuff you have to watch out for and what you'll be doing with it. First off, let's read the blurb on what they say on the Aegis Reclaimer. The Aegis Reclaimer is an industrial salvage ship, equipped with the reinforced cargo bay, a long-range jump drive, and launch pods for unmanned drones. The Reclaimer is the ideal ship for taking advantage of deep space wrecks. Tractor beams, floodlights, scanner options, and docking ports round out the tools on this capable ship. Utilitarian spacecraft, the listed cargo capacity is only for the dedicated cargo room and does not count for salvage material capacity, which will be detailed later. So that's the blurb on what they say, and we're now going to quickly go into the technical overview. That's right. So we got a large radar. We have 3 medium computers, 1 capital power plant, needs the juice. It's also got 3 large coolers, makes sense, especially if you're running a laser loadout, 1 large shield, and 2 mediums. So the shielding is decent. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good for, you know, what the ship does, I guess. It is not a combat ship, so, you know, gotta get myself out of that mindset. Alright, so let's have a look here. We got 4 large fuel intakes. We got 4 large fuel tanks. That's interesting. Alright, so we got 1 large quantum drive, 1 large jump module, and 1 large quantum fuel tank. Thrusters, this is where it gets a little interesting. So you got 2 VTOL thrusters, and you have 6 retro thrusters, 2 medium, and 12 fixed maneuvering thrusters. As for turrets, you got 2 size 5s, and you've also got, that's on the 1 mount by the way, so 2 size 5 guns on that 1 mount. And you have 6 size 3 turrets with 2 mounts per turret, so 2 guns per each turret. So yeah, let's continue. So you got utility items. You got 2 size 3 mounts for your tractor beams, and 1 size 4 utility item, which is the salvage arm, the grabby hand of death. So let's get into what you'll basically be using this ship for and whatnot, and the kind of dangers you may come across, and all that good stuff. So, the Aegis Reclaimer, one of my all-time favorite ships. Funnily enough, this is the ship that got me into Star Citizen. That's right, I saw it when it was on concept, and I was like, wow, I really like the look of that ship. Let's look up more details. Oh, this is the game! Let's look up more details about this game! And then I just sort of like got hooked. And here I am, years later. I don't regret a single minute of it, though. So, let's continue. So, the Reclaimer. The Reclaimer is basically, to not really over-glorify things, it is the galaxy's garbage truck. It is the industrial heavy salvage machine. This is your end game salvage ship. This is what you get when you decide salvage is the role for you, and you have basically done a whole bunch of salvage previous, whether it's with a chop shop module on a Caterpillar, or the new Drake salvage ship. Well, not new anymore, but yeah, anyway, as I was saying, these types of ships, you'll be working your way through the ranks, eventually saving up enough credits to purchase something like this, or you can buy it now and save yourself a whole lot of time. So, the Reclaimer. The Reclaimer is designed to go out into, let's say, less than safe areas and reclaim wrecks, or you can go out and try and find one, but, you know, this is one of those things. The Reclaimer is the ship that is the most at risk out of all the ships in the civilian capital ship scale, in my honest opinion, because you're going to be going to really hazardous and dangerous sites most of the time to score the best loot. You're going to be traveling to wrecks and dissecting them and taking them apart, which means you'll be in those dangerous areas for very long periods of time. The Reclaimer, however, is literally a money maker to the extreme. It just eats ships and produces money. That's so cool. You basically head out in something like this with a complement of a few crew members here and there, and you head out and you go and salvage a ship, and then you move on to the next and the next. The life of a salvager, though, is the one that lives on the roll of a dice. If you like the idea of being a sort of a rogue and living on the fringes, making money from scrap and, you know, trying to get by sort of Serenity style, then this is a really good ship for you. The Reclaimer is, you know, you go out, you get a tip off maybe that there's a wreck out there or something's happened, you head out, prepare for the worst, you expect to maybe find a couple of pirates here and there setting up a small ambush, you take them out, you salvage their ships, and then you salvage the wreck, or something like that. It's really cool. Positives to the Reclaimer: it is gargantuan, and size does mean something in Star Citizen, and what size means is usually it discourages pirates from attacking you if they have a small ship or a couple of cutlasses. They'll see something like this and be like, yeah, maybe not, I'm gonna leave it alone. Chances are I'm probably gonna die. That's what size does for you. Also, you've got the best salvage equipment in the game. You're going to be able to basically take apart the biggest ships and get decent amount of scrap from it. You're going to be able to stay out for long periods of time. That means less trips back and forth, and that means you'll be able to make more money more easily, basically. Also, it's got a tiny crew complement for a ship of its size, and what that means is essentially you could run out there with an NPC crew when you can hire them and whatnot, and just stay out there for weeks at a time, just having a real blast and a good old time. The Reclaimer is a really, really, really cool ship. So let's quickly go over some specifications, as always. So we got a length of 155 meters, a beam of 118 meters, a height of 50 meters, pretty heavy behemoth. And we got a structural cargo capacity, so cargo capacity is 180, remember that's not including the salvage materials. Your SCM speed is 100 meters per second, your afterburn speed is 930 meters per second, and your minimum crew is 4, and your maximum crew is 5. As I said, tiny crew complement, which is really handy, especially for a ship like this. So the negatives. Okay, so it looks like a brick, that's not a negative, but it does fly like one. But, you know, the old adage, you put enough thrust on everything, you can make it fly, including your pickup if you own one. Wouldn't recommend it, though. Don't be responsible for someone jumping like a pickup off a cliff thinking they can reach the moon. Okay, when that VTEC kicks in, yo. No, but, getting a little off track. Right, so, the Reclaimer. You have these huge, ginormous engines which output a crap ton of thrust, and yeah, that is my measuring term, a crap ton, a metric crap ton. It's enough to get you off the ground, but not quickly, unfortunately. The higher the gravity, the more of a struggle it'll be to leave. It can take anywhere from an hour to break atmo, to maybe even only a few minutes if it's a small moon. It honestly depends on the planet you're headed to, so the best thing to do with this ship is avoid planets at all costs. But maybe that's where the best locations are to get information based on salvage, and maybe even sell your scrap at, so that's going to be an issue. The other drawback is your engines are incredibly exposed. If you do get ambushed, you could end up with your ship being crippled, and that's not good, especially when something like this is out there to make money from scrap. You don't want to end up as scrap yourself. That would be very, very bad. Another thing, its defenses are decent, but they're not amazing. And more often than not, this is a ship that will be going out without escorts. You'll be going out to the middle of God knows where to bring back scrap and material and whatnot, and chances are you may run into the odd, you know, not so nice person, and they may want to either take from you what you have, hijack your ship, or just straight up kill you. That might just happen also. So the thing about the Reclaimer is it's incredibly slow, and being slow and lumbering can be a problem. For the other ships on this list, it's not as big of a deal, but for the Reclaimer, this is the problem it has. It sits in this unique position where this is something that you wouldn't expect to see maybe with an escort, because it can't simply just afford it to do it. You go out to salvage a bunch of stuff, but you can't guarantee that you're going to run across something to salvage. What that also means is you may also run into ambushes, you may run into trouble, you may run into all sorts of horrible nastiness. You can't afford to pay for an extra escort if you're basically struggling to stay afloat financially as it is if you have a bad week. And the problem with a Reclaimer is you cannot guarantee your income because you're going off a salvage. You might find a dry time, like where you just can't find anything of value to scrap, only basic materials maybe to just cover the fuel costs and scrape by. But the idea of using a ship of this size and magnitude is to make profit, so that means you have to head out even further away from everybody else, or maybe even combat zones. Now the Reclaimer does have enough guns to enter a small skirmish combat zone and start salvaging ships, as long as he's not aligned to either faction. Now what the problem that results in there is, if there's a small conflict going on, maybe between like outlaws and the UEE, you can fly in there and start salvaging ships and whatnot, but there's an issue. Depending on the laws of that system, it might be illegal for you to do so, especially if they're fresh. Now, most of the time when it comes to salvaging ships, you'll have to find something that is classified as being able to be salvaged. It might be someone awaiting rescue. You don't want to just fly up to them and they're there and they're like Caterpillar, and all of a sudden they're just like, hey, what the hell, man? As you start eating their ship like some sort of giant Pac-Man. That's not good. That's not going to make anyone's day. That's going to ruin their day. And yours if you get busted. So, you know, there's that. You want to avoid all these sort of little things. But the Reclaimer offers an adventure literally unlike any other ship in the game. So the Reclaimer is a marvelous piece of machinery, and it is one of my favorite ships of all time. I absolutely adore it, but the role salvage does come with its risks. And the Reclaimer basically tackles those head-on with an industrial headbutt, basically. So yeah, the Reclaimer with components, you're going to want to get the best industrial grade stuff you can right away. And the good thing about this also is with the Reclaimer you may even be able to find those components without having to buy them, which is really handy. So that basically covers the Reclaimer in a nutshell. That's wrapped it up. So let's move on to the next ship in this list. So the next one up is the Endeavour. Now this ship I am really excited to see in the game, especially when the game is in its more soft release state, when a lot of the mechanics have been implemented for the roles, because this ship is amazing. There's so much you can do, and it's a dedicated science ship as well, which it's a capital grade research ship, which is amazing. I mean, I honestly cannot wait to see the stuff that people do with these types of ships of this magnitude also. If you own an Endeavour, please let me know in the comments below, and I'd love to talk to you down there about it. It's a really cool ship, and yeah, let's dive right in. So let's read what they say. Musashi Industrial Starflight Concern is proud to present the Endeavour class research vessel, a fully modular space platform designed to be adapted for a variety of scientific and medical tasks. Initially developed as a floating laboratory, the MISC Endeavour can be outfitted for everything from spatial telescopy to use as a mobile hospital. Now, I probably butchered that. Now, it's not every day I say spatial telescopy. I mean, try saying that 4 times faster. Anyway, so let's quickly go on to the components. So it's got a medium radar. It's got, let's have a look here, 4 medium computers. That's handy. For a science ship, I was honestly expecting it to maybe have more. Power plants, 1 large plus 1 capital. It needs it for some of the things this thing has on board. It's also got 4 large coolers, and it's also got 2 large shield generators, which is pretty good. You got 2 large fuel intakes, you got 2 large fuel tanks, you got 1 capital quantum drive, a capital jump module, capital quantum fuel tank, which is pretty good. So for thrusters, you've got 4 retro, and you have 9 main thrusters, and you also have 18 fixed maneuvering thrusters. As for turrets, you have 1 size 5 turret with 2 guns. Now that is the worst defense I've ever seen of a ship of this magnitude. Like, my god. But I'm hoping that changes soon, because that is absolutely ridiculous. Its length is 200 meters, its beam is 48 meters, its height is 20 meters, its size is capital. Got a lot of mass, cargo capacity of 500, not a lot, a minimum crew of 3, max crew of 5. Now we know for a fact that a lot of these numbers are definitely going to change as the Endeavour is more fleshed out. Because the Endeavour is an amazing ship. It really is. It's a one of a kind. So you might be wondering, okay, so you either own or you're thinking of owning an Endeavour. Why would you bother buying one? What's the point? Where's the money to be made? Well, the Endeavour does some stuff which is pretty mysterious as of right now in the Star Citizen universe in terms of not much information was given, but what was given is pretty exciting. So the Endeavour, first off, let's talk about the first thing, is the giant space telescope. The huge telescope will basically give you the chance to, look at other systems and stuff, and maybe star charts and like all this good stuff, and really find out some awesome information on maybe the next system over or something like that. But here's something else. It'll allow you to track strange phenomena such as huge asteroids zooming through space, maybe even enemy fleet movements. Who knows? The possibilities are endless with something like this. It could be used even in a military application if you are at, like, let's say a large-scale conflict with another organization. The two of you have been at odds for months and this fight is continuing. This sort of platform could give you the edge in terms of you could maybe spy on their movements and not even be in the same system. So you can find the gaps in their patrols and whatnot to really, deliver the killer blow, which is pretty cool. Unless you're the one on the receiving end, and it's gonna hurt. But yeah, the Endeavour comes with these module points where you're allowed to slaughter these different things on. You also have this like particle accelerator, because if it goes wrong, you create a small black hole, right? That's no big deal. But the particle accelerator will allow you to overclock things, like in terms of maybe enhance ammunition rounds or whatever, or a material type. Who knows what you can do with that? It's going to be amazing. Then you've also got the ability to make a farm. You could essentially just grow space weed if you really wanted to, or space shrooms if you're more groovy, and just go down that road. Or you could essentially basically produce food, large quantities of it too, and then ship that out to a starving planet after their crops have maybe failed at a huge profit. Or you could do some humanitarian aid for a planet that maybe was just attacked by the Vandul, fly down there for the survivors and give them food and whatnot and all that good stuff. Or you could use it for researching strange new alien plants and whatnot to find out, what's in them. Maybe you can make toxins and all good stuff. Who knows what the possibilities are? They are truly endless. And one of my favorites is the medical one, the Hope class. The Hope class turns this thing into a giant hospital. But you may be thinking to yourself, but this is all good and well. Problem with this ship is it's a bit big, and that's going to be really lumbering and whatnot to move around. Well, don't worry, because the great thing about this ship is it can basically become a space station. The front module part of the ship detaches, and you can fly that down to a planet. You can fly it almost anywhere, and it's a really good exploration platform. And the cool thing is, you can basically imagine this. You've just stumbled across a new alien world. It's just been discovered. Now it's your turn to do some in-depth research. You're maybe a botanist. So you fly in orbit, you detach your plant pods or whatever, or your rear half where all the plant pods are, and you fly down, maybe capture some wildlife, capture some plants, fly back up, and start doing some research. How cool is that? It's a real scientist dream, this ship. A real sort of like 70s / modern sci-fi kind of approach to space exploration, where you fly down and investigate strange alien life forms and all that good stuff, and strange plants, with all really groovy colors and whatnot. Now, positives. Positives are, it's one hell of an adventure, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I can imagine this is actually going to be quite lucrative, especially if you're going to run a hospital. I mean, if you look at how hospitals are working now, I mean, you have a private hospital, you're going to be incredibly well off. You're going to have a lot of money. And also with a Hope class, you can park on the edge of a war zone and be like, well, providing aid to the highest bidder. And especially if this is sort of like a world in the middle of Nowheresville, like a frontier world, this is where, your services will be invaluable, and people will be running to you with all sorts of wounds and injuries and be like, hey man, I need my arm sewed back on. Like the guy who lost his arm in Saving Private Ryan who picks it up, that kind of deal. And yeah, it's the future. You can do it. You can repair them and all that good stuff. And overclocking stuff. And also you can do some, rather than like, you know, let's say less than legal stuff, you can grow all sorts of dangerous substances for either weaponized or, you know, recreational use. Or you could essentially turn your ship into a floating chop shop, a human chop shop. And you might be wondering, ooh, that sounds interesting. That's right. You can turn people into frickin' cyborgs. I'm not even kidding. It is illegal in some sections of the UEE to modify people to that extent, but you can do it nonetheless. They spoke about this a long time ago, and the way it's going, they're sticking to their guns, especially with what they showed us, the concept of the shipjacker, a modified human being. So yeah, this is the type of stuff you can do. You can do stuff lawfully and, you know, really good on a scientist approach, or you can use this as maybe your major production facility for your pirate org or something to, you know, make money, smuggle more of your this is more of your syndicate kind of thing. Or you can go down the more professional exploration road. Personally, me, I would love to go down the exploration road of this thing. I would love to go to strange alien worlds and, you know, just look around and explore and take plant, like, stuff back and all that good stuff. That's so cool. That's so cool. Right, so, the negatives, okay, they're kind of obvious. This thing does not have any form of defense. It is useless in a fight, and you are an easy target for pirates and people to board you. This is a problem. You're going to need people to back you up. But this is a ship that will oftenly have an escort, a military escort of some kind, and some military ships nearby at all times, because this ship is a solid vulnerable target. It's so vulnerable because you can just attack it from anywhere almost and not really worry about the, you know, the teeth on this thing. And I'm hoping they upgrade that soon. This thing does need some defensive guns. If you agree with me, put it in the comments below. This thing does need more defense at least. I mean, come on. From something that is valued like this, and it's going to be costing so many resources in game to get running and get all the stuff together for, you're going to need some form of defense, not just the one gun. I mean, it's ridiculous. So yeah, the Endeavour is a very vulnerable target. It's going to be a hell of a thing to, you know, to take up on, like in terms of get your group together and go out into space and do this as a group. It's going to be one of those big asks. The crew complement, well, requirements will be going up soon though, you know, and whatnot, but that's a good thing because this ship does need more people. So yeah, the Endeavour, definitely one of the coolest ships in the game. I mean, all the really big ships are super awesome in their own ways. So yeah, that's basically gonna wrap up the Endeavour. Let's move on to the next ship in this list. So, the mighty Pioneer. The Pioneer is one of the coolest ships in the game, and to be honest, I would say it has the coolest job on this entire list in this video, because of what I'll tell you in a moment. Aha! So, let's go over the overview. After the auspicious debut with the Mustang, Consolidated Outland has gone and changed the game again with the reveal of the Pioneer. The self-contained mobile construction yard is capable of creating planetary modular structures, ushering in a wave of aspiring colonists to customize their new homes on the frontier. Now, the frontier that I've mentioned previous and often in other videos, and this one, this is the ship that will help those, like, you know, frontier sort of like towns actually be formed in the first place. This is what's going to be building better worlds. And yes, I did do the reference because it is such a Weyland-Yutani ship. So much so that I love it. It's so cool. Like, this is the ship you'll be taking down to basically worlds that have been logged and checked. Maybe you've had your Carrack fly over there, log the planet. Then the research team has arrived in the Endeavour and they've gone, yeah, this planet's got some really awesome, interesting stuff. And then the huge corporations come along and be like, yep, we're going to buy it. And then the medical researchers were like all crying and stuff because of the wildlife. And then all of a sudden, the Consolidated Outland ships come in like from the horizon to build their towns and stuff and destroy the environment and all that glorious stuff with their diesel and other materials being Weyland styled. But yeah, let's cover the technical overview. So you got a large radar, you got 3 medium computers, you got 2 large power plants, which is interesting. considering the fact that this ship is absolutely massive, and I would honestly expect it to have more power requirements, but, you know, it doesn't. It's fair enough. You've got 4 medium coolers and 2 large coolers. You also have 6 large shield generators. 6 large shield generators, sweet lord above. So you got 3 large power plants, I get it, right? But you also have 6 large shield generators. I'm guessing you cannot fire the weapons, at least, you know, at the same time as having your shields at max power. That's crazy. So, fuel intakes. 2 large. You also got 2 large fuel tanks, a large quantum drive, a large jump module, and 2 large quantum fuel tanks. So for thrusters, you have got 8 main VTOL thrusters, you have 8 retro thrusters, and you also have 4 main thrusters. You have 20 fixed maneuvering thrusters. Obviously, you're going to need them for very delicate repositioning for the ship and whatnot to get it on a level surface, I can imagine. So weapons. On board this thing, you have got 6 size 4 guns, which is interesting. This thing has a lot of forward firepower. I do not know why you would need it, but it does have it. Not obviously overly insane firepower like, you know, combat capital firepower, but still a lot of firepower nonetheless. You also have 2 size 4 turrets, and you also have another set of 2 size 4 turrets, but these are remote. So you got 2 manned and 2 remote turrets. Those are the specifications on this, well, the hard points on the ship. Specifications are 200 meters in length, 125 meters in beam, and 30 meters in height. Size is capital, cargo capacity of 600, SCM speed of 85 meters per second, minimum crew of 4, maximum crew of 8. Now, this ship alone changes the game dramatically. This is the ship that will be flying down to build bases and whatnot, and outposts and towns and all that good stuff. You may be wondering, okay, so how is that such a big deal? Well, imagine doing this as your desired role or profession in the game. You can run your own construction company in Star Citizen if you own one of these. Hell, if you owned a fleet of these things and had a whole bunch of players, like, you know, working under you, in this sort of like maybe this pyramid scheme, like an actual construction company, you could rake in the credits. Everybody in your group could be making a ton of credits, basically running out and doing construction. You'll have organizations and in-game factions, basically every now and again putting out an alert saying, hey, we need an outpost built here. Players, however, might say, hey, we need an entire town built here, and we don't have a pioneer. That will be where you come in and be like, well, this will cost you X amount of credits and resources, X amount of credits and time, and then the risk and all this good stuff, and then paying for the crew complement, and they'll have to pay it if they don't have an Endeavour. Sorry, a pioneer. Got the Endeavour on the mind there. And then you'll come in and build the base, and build like many different structures. Yes, it'll be very time consuming, but for you, time is profit, and that's a good thing because you'll be working away, and with each new HAB block you put down, that's a whole bunch of credits in the pocket. So positives. Positives to a ship like this are fairly simple. You make a lot of money. You go to strange new worlds and, you know, make them better worlds, essentially, for people to live on. And you fly down, you build outposts, you have a good time, and then you trek back. It's basically a giant construction ship. It's every engineer's dream. Now, also, negatives. So negatives, okay, you're going to need some serious firepower to back you up with this thing, because you are going to be everybody's primary target. If it's a group of players that are undoubtedly going to maybe have enemies that are building this outpost and you're hired to do the job, you are going to be their target of their enemies, because their enemies are going to want to cripple their ability to do anything if they're at war with them, especially to build a base, a forward operating base. So you will be their primary target, whether you're aligned with them or you're just doing a job for them. It doesn't matter. You're going to have to be destroyed. Another drawback. Okay, so you're going to need a lot of people protecting you at all times, because pirates are going to want to steal your ship. If they can steal a pioneer and then, you know, either junk it and sell it as parts or whatever, or just maybe use it to build bases with, then, you know, they'll do that. This is one of those ships that people are going to try to get their hands on by any means necessary if they're not exactly too caring about the law. So those are your negatives. And the negative is it's an easy target, it's a large target, and especially when you're down on the ground building bases, you are super, super vulnerable to basically being boarded. That's a problem. Another thing I find interesting though, and this is just generally the Pioneers' like rule of cool, and what I absolutely love about it is you can fly down to a planet, maybe they have an indigenous life forms on there that are like, you know, maybe even slightly intelligent or whatever, like you have like these strange alien tribes down there. You could go down to build a base, and this is something I hope to God happens, because it'll be amazing. You fly down, you're about to build a base, and you have the equivalent of the Na'vi coming to attack you, and you have to hold them off from your ship. That would be so cool. Like you have construction workers wielding shotguns trying to take out these aliens that are using like crossbows and stuff. That would be insane. So Tony Z, if you're watching, make it happen, man. I know you've mentioned this sort of stuff previous, so I'm reminding you, make it happen. So yeah, this would be amazing. Even just dangerous species that are native to the planet, like maybe like, you know, just dangerous life forms that like giant alien dog cats or something. I don't know. I'm not good with like animals. Or alien bears that shoot lasers. No, but well, maybe they don't shoot lasers, but you know, that sort of thing. These are the dangers that you can also come across, and they're also huge gameplay things, which would make it so much more fun and interesting. You'll have Marines walking the perimeter as you're building this base or whatever. You might even have to build it in a clearing in a huge dense jungle. They've made a clearing for them to build a science base, and this is where you come down, and now you've got all these other dangers and whatnot. So yeah, the Pioneer is definitely a awesome ship. Really, really cool, and I cannot wait to see it in the game. So that should basically give you a rough roundup on the Pioneer. So now, after all that good stuff with our Na'vi fighting Pioneers and our salvage scrapping Reclaimers and our exploration endeavors, it's time to move on to the next ship in this list. So as you know, we are doing this by size, and I do have a size chart here I'll put up on the screen for you guys here. So as you can see, I've got all the ships here, and this is the most up-to-date size chart there is. This chart includes 132 Star Citizen ships and vehicles as of October 2018. So the next one in this list is the Orion, coming in at a mighty 340 meters. This thing is a Goliath. So let's jump right in and see what the blurb says. Robert Space Industries' goal has always been to make the stars available to individual citizens. Now with the RSI Orion mining platform, RSI is letting individuals take over the process formerly controlled by mega corporations. The Orion features include high-grade turret-mounted tractor beam arrays, plenty of mineral storage, and a cabin designed by the team that brought you the Aurora and the Constellation. The listed cargo capacity is only for the dedicated cargo room and does not account for the mined material capacity in the storage pods, which will be detailed later. So that's the blurb. That's what the brief blurb on it is. So the radar is large, the computer is medium. It has one medium computer. One. This thing is basically has the computing power of an iPhone. Okay, you got 2 capital power plants, you got 4 large coolers, you got 3 large shield generators, and that's really important. I'll get to that in a moment and I'll tell you why. You got 2 large fuel intakes, you got 2 large fuel tanks, 1 large quantum drive, 1 large jump module, and 1 capital class quantum fuel tank. So, as for your thrusters, you got 2 retro, 4 main, and 20 fixed maneuvering thrusters. For turrets, at the moment, they may change, you have got 2 remote turrets of size 5, which isn't bad, you know, like, and each turret does have 2 guns, so in total that is 4 size 5 cannons. So that's pretty handy. That'll do an okay-ish job of defense, not the best, but, you know, with these ships you do need to take someone out with you when they get into this size. So let's have a look what else you got on board here. So you've got 2 size 3 tractor beam utility items and 2 size 4 utility mining lasers. Now, This may change in the future because we do not know where they're going with that. So the minimum crew is 4 and the maximum crew is 7. That also may change. Size is capital, obviously, and its cargo capacity is 384. It is a heavy mining ship, guys. Now, the Orion. The Orion is a ship that is absolutely amazing. It really is. If you really are a hardcore industrialist and you like the idea of salvage and you like the idea of mining, I mean, mining is like the most extreme end of the spectrum in terms of like the industrial side of the game, basically, in my honest opinion, because you're basically turning, like, you're going out, finding an asteroid belt, grinding up those rocks, and turning them into money, basically. That's what you're doing. You're turning them into profit. You get the ore, you haul it back, you know, dump it off once it's been refined, and this is the great thing about the Orion. It's just this self-contained mining rig, like it's the end game mining ship. And I know quite a few of you out there already own this, and I'm just going to stress to you quickly the importance of that. The fact that you already own an Orion right now is massive. It is huge, because come a few years from now, and it doesn't know how long down the line it'll be, but when the game hits its soft release, the Orions are going to be so sought after, because they are going to be the backbone of how an organization makes money. This is the money maker for large groups of players, and if you have more than one Orion, you're made, you're set. As long as you got the stuff to protect them, you're good. Like, even 2 Orions or 3 Orions, you get those things out there, and you do like a mission where you send them all out, you got a good contingency, like a few hammerheads in there for protection and whatnot, you're done, you're sorted, you're made, because you just go out into a really rich asteroid field, extract all the value, come back, fend off some pirates, and then drop it all off, and boom, you have an instant payday. And yeah, it's absolutely amazing. This and the next ship I'll talk about after this one are the 2 biggest money makers in the game, and no doubt they will be for till the end of time. I know it's a strong statement to make, but trust me on this, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to these things. So yeah, the Orion is amazing. It is this really, really kick-ass ship, but it's also in great peril, and I don't mean just from pirates and stuff and things like that. Now, if you guys have been following the channel for a while, and I know some of you guys out there have, and those who have, I just want to say thank you for sticking with me. You are amazing. Thank you. The Orion goes right back to when they were first talking about mining, and this is 2 years before it was put in the game. They were saying how if you mine an asteroid and it has a pocket of gas or something in it, and you use your beam on too high an intensity and that rock explodes, that rock is essentially a bomb. Now, in my original mining video, I talked about this. In my original like mining roll video, I think I made it about 2 years ago, I talked about this, and a lot of people were like, no way, that ain't gonna happen. And now we've got people in prospectors blowing up already, so, you know? Oh, yeah, but the thing is, with the Orion, you gotta take that explosion and dial it up to 11. Because right now, with the prospector and those lasers, you gotta put it at 1. Because this is high risk, high reward. The Orion, I did an in-depth video on this ship before. Everybody has to be doing their jobs perfectly on this ship. It is the most important thing. Like, I'm not even joking, I can't stress this enough. All the other ships, and I'm not even joking, in this list, allow you to screw up a little bit and get away with it and not lose too much. Like a Reclaimer, you might maybe take a ship apart wrong and you don't make as much profit as you could do. You screw up a little bit there. Pioneer, you screw up a little bit, maybe you land it wrong, so then you have to take off and land again. Fair enough. And, you know, the Endeavour, you screw up because you put your pod or whatever too far away from where you go to fly down, so you then have to move it to a closer point for your up and down retrieval. With this ship, you do not get a second chance if you screw up. If that guy puts too much power into the beam and he melts down that asteroid, which is going to be huge, we're talking absolutely gargantuan. Like, these rocks you're going to be chewing up with this thing are going to be massive. He puts too much power into that beam, that asteroid is going to explode. And when it explodes of something of that size, they've already shown us some of the rocks flying around there working on the effects for these asteroids exploding and hitting each other. Like, we're talking the really big ones. If you get chunks of those rocks hurled at your ship, you're done. That's it, it's over. We're talking chunks of them flying at the pilot's cabin, which is quite exposed, crushing the compartments. The entire ship detonates in glorious sci-fi fashion, and everybody dies, and all of your hard work is gone, and you've just lost a crap ton of money, and you might have even screwed over the whole organization at that point, because they could have put everything into getting the ship running in the first place to do that. So it's a pretty big deal. The Orion is a job, like the mining ship, is a job for professionals. That's why it's good to get as much practice in with the prospector and things like that. You get your best laser operators on the lasers. You get your best refinery operators in the refinery. Because this ship is a finely tuned machine that's designed around making money. So, positives. You're going to be grinding out money like there's no tomorrow. And it is such a kick-ass looking ship. And the cool thing is, it's an RSI ship, which means finding parts for it at a decent price that are reliable is going to be relatively easy. It's going to be a very efficient ship as well. No doubt it will not be cheap to run, and definitely will cost you a bomb to get in-game. Now, this is going to be one of the most expensive ships in-game. So, yeah, I'd recommend picking it up now if it's your desired ship, or else you might spend quite a while, maybe a year or so, with your buddies trying to grind the money up to get one of these things. But yeah, it's an amazing ship. It can make some serious money, and it can change like the entire economy structure for you and your organization in terms of it can just dial up your profits from what would be relatively medium to starter level all the way to what you'd expect to get like maybe after a year. And you can get that in the first few months of playing the game if you guys know what you're doing. So that's a huge positive. Negative drawbacks. This thing is going to handle like a brick. It is a freight train. You're going to need to plan out your movements way ahead of time. You're going to need to basically talk to everyone in your group and say, right, we're going to have to go from here to here to here, and we're going to have to make a stop here, and then we go to here, and this is where we mine the asteroids. You're going to have a really slow speed with this thing and even worse maneuverability. So if someone screws up and maybe their spatial awareness is off, you're going to start losing bits of your ship as you go through an asteroid belt if it's too dense. You have to know what your limits are. This thing is massive. Also, protection. It needs it. You're going to need a whole lot of ships protecting this thing. It's going to be a massive target for pirates and raiders. They just want the ore and the materials. They don't care if they blow up the ship, because it's a difficult ship to steal because of its speed and maneuverability. To steal something like this, they would need to basically have an orchestrated plan ahead of time, because this thing is so slow, it's not exactly going to be able to get out of trouble in a hurry, so it's not a great getaway car, put it that way. So yeah, that's a really, really cool ship, the Orion. Definitely one of my all-time favorites. Highly recommend it to you guys. And it's one of the ships, now I wouldn't often recommend people to buy ships before, like, endgame ships, especially before the game is out. But this is one of the few ships where I'd say if you can afford it and you do have the spare funds, as long as you have the spare funds, do not bankrupt yourself, guys. If you have the spare funds and you desperately want it, buy it, okay? Get it now. But make sure you get it with lifetime insurance, please, because I've heard some real horror stories about people upgrading from a 6-month insurance pack to a Polaris or something. So they have 6 months insurance on the Polaris. Any of the endgame ships you want LTI on. It's very, very important. So yeah, that's the Orion. Definitely, I love this ship. It is so cool. And I know a lot of you Orion owners out there are watching this video, so please post your comments in the comments below and tell me what you love the most about your ship. And would you recommend anyone else buy it? So yeah, thank you for doing that if you do comment in the comments below. Let's jump on to the next ship here, which is the last one in our list, and let's wrap this up. So now we move on to the biggest civilian capital ship there is, the King of Hauling, the Master of Trade. Yeah, this thing is a behemoth. This thing is massive. We're talking about the Hull E. Now, the Hull E is a gargantuan behemoth. It comes in at around 372 meters. It's bigger than an Orion. This thing is going to handle like a freight train. It's going to be an awe-inspiring sight to see. But it does have one major advantage over the other ships on this list. It can collapse into a smaller form, so it can get a lot smaller, because what happens is when you fill it up with cargo, it extends out, and all of these arms fold out of it to hold these cargo. There's like these huge containers. But there's a drawback to this: the cargo is held on the exterior of the ship. So let's read the blurb on what they say. The Hull E, the largest specialized freighter available on the market today. The Hull E is generally owned by major corporations and operated with a high degree of planning. The lack of maneuverability inherent in such a large ship means that everyone planning to operate them should be careful about equipping turrets and providing escort. Their potential load and modularity is unparalleled. However, no other ship allows as much room to store goods or to modify towards another role. Now, that was written a very, very, very long time ago indeed. Now, modularity. You might be wondering, what the hell do they mean by modularity? A long time ago, I made a video about this, and I talked about the lore of this ship also, and the whole EM, all that good stuff. You'll be able to get these modules, which are basically fortification points, which you can attach like you would cargo racks, and basically put on these small bunkers, which is really cool. You can turn this thing into a gunboat if you really wanted to, like this huge anti-air platform. But I wouldn't recommend it. There's a lot of better ships out there that do that role, but this is the money maker. This is how major organizations, and we're talking about like after an organization has made a real lot of money, they will have their dedicated traders, like their top traders, and they will stick them in these things, and they will put all of the org profit into the cargo, and then they will escort it from one point to another to drop off this materials and then make a huge return. But it is a gamble, because if something goes wrong, and I mean anything, then it's going to be the biggest catastrophic financial loss you could possibly suffer. I mean, in terms of value that would be lost, it's the equivalent of losing a fully combat spec'd javelin with all the crew aboard and everything in an instant, just poof, gone into the ether, never to be seen again. No bringbacks, no nothing. And yeah, that's a lot of resource if that was to happen, because as we know, like javelins that were sold now are sold with literally nothing on them. They're just rolling shells. But yeah, let's continue here. So let's look at the stats, or the technical overview. The radar is capital, the computers are 4 medium. Capital power plant, you have 2 capital coolers, 2 capital shield generators, got the same shielding as the Kraken. That's pretty interesting. So you've got 4 capital fuel intakes, 4 capital fuel tanks, a capital quantum drive, capital jump module, and 2 capital quantum fuel tanks. So that's pretty decent. You've got 6 retro thrusters, which is pretty handy. You got 10 main thrusters, it's a lot of power, and 12 fixed maneuvering thrusters. Not that much for a ship like this. So it's got 1 weapon, but they haven't determined the size, and it's yet to be announced. I've never seen that before, but that's interesting. That's for its primary armament. For turrets, it's got remote turrets, and its max size is 3, and you have 3 mounts. So you got 3 remote turrets that are size 3, and then you have another remote turret, which is, you have 1 mount of size 5. So you got 2 size 5s on there. Firepower is horrendous. I'm just going to say it now. It's absolutely abysmal. But it's got missiles yet to be determined also, which is pretty interesting. So its length is 372 meters. Its beam is 104 meters. Its height is 104 meters. Its size is definitely capital. It's got enough mass to basically be a small moon almost, and its cargo capacity is off the chart. But before I tell you the cargo capacity, I'll tell you the minimum crew is 4 and the maximum crew is 5. So the crew you need for the ship itself is quite low. Now, I've seen some people out there talking about, oh yeah, we'll just run 6 or 7 of these Hull E's and that'll not be a problem. Now, this is where that logic is completely flawed. The cargo capacity of a Hull E is 98,304 units. Now, if you were to take the most expensive mineral in the game, or the most expensive material, and you were to multiply it by that number, you would realize that doing such a task and grinding up those credits to afford to do that task is going to take you a very, very long time for one of these ships. Now, if you were to do multiple Hull E's, we're talking at least 6 years down the line from soft release of a dedicated money-making organization to be able to fill up a fleet of these things. And if that was the case, even then they would need even more credits for the protection, because if someone did those movements, especially in one go with that many Hull E's, you're looking at many pirate organizations coming together to attack said thing, and you will lose so much that it may even just leave such a bad taste in your mouth you won't want to touch the game again. So be careful, guys. The Hull E is definitely a ship where you're going to lose a lot if it goes wrong. So a lot of planning is involved. A lot of planning. But this is like winning the lottery. If you can drop off that cargo and make that sweet return, you are winning the lottery. So that's basically the ship summed up almost. But I'll give you some positives and some negatives. Positives: it's the best freight ship in the game, and it can collapse, so that means, no, I don't mean like it's gonna just implode, like in a negative way. It does implode, but that's just part of its function. And I don't mean detonate, I mean as it collapses inwards. So what happens is, these boons you see in this picture here, they fold back in, and then the ship gets shorter and shorter and shorter, and then it just like sort of collapses into some sort of bulk of a ship. The middle part is sort of gone and folded up in the middle of it. It's like inside. But there's another side to this. The thing is, it cannot land when it has itself extended out and it has all the cargo, because it just can't. It weighs too much. This thing is too heavy. It will die if it goes through like a high G world, or even just a 1 G of gravity, and you fly through with all that cargo, you're done. You're falling out of the sky. It's game over. The only way you can land this thing on a planet is if you were to collapse it and it has no cargo. But this is why the docking port mechanics are coming in, and thus they're working on for the other Hull ships, because they all work the same way. The cool thing about it though is, you don't need to go down to a planet with something like this. You would go to a trade hub from one to another. You would take the main express lanes and then drop off all your materials and make a handsome profit. That's how it works. Negatives. Okay, so where you can go with this ship is very limited. There is not many places you can go in terms of travel because of its sheer bulk and size, and then danger, risk versus reward. Your movements may become very predictable, and that's bad. If people start to know that you have a Hull E that's trading regularly around a circuit, they're going to get wise to that and be like, right, what we need to do is, tackle the guards and get the ship. And with that much material on board, I'm pretty sure they can get as many people to back them up as possible. So you're going to need some heavy protection. Like, for a ship like this, if you're going to send out a Hull E, I would advise you have a Kraken fully stocked with fighters and bombers and an Idris running alongside this thing, and maybe even throw in a Hammerhead and a smattering of smaller trade ships as well, just to bulk out the fleet a little bit, and then move out with this. You are going to need a small fleet to trade with this ship to its full effect. Those are the major negatives. So yeah, that basically covers it. The running costs will be relatively decent. The upkeep will be relatively easy. It's only going to be trucking from one side to another. You're not going to be doing anything too crazy with it. So yeah, it's a pretty decent ship. So that basically covers the Hull E and all the ships on this list for that matter. This has been a very long video and it has taken me a long time to edit and to get done, I can assure you of that. But yeah, that's basically covered the civilian grade capital ships. Now I know some of you guys out there are asking me, hey man, could you do a video on like the Bengal Carrier and like the Dreadnought and all these other ships and the Pegasus Carrier? Yeah, that's right. I know who you are. And I have made videos on those ships already, and they were very popular. They got like 40,000 views and whatnot. But for you guys, and I will be doing a Bengal and a Retribution class destroyer video and a Pegasus video all rolled into one. We'll be talking about the mega capital ships, and we're talking about these humongous ships that are absolutely gargantuan in size and nature. They are just so big it's beyond comprehension. It makes the Javelin look like like an Aurora to a Starfarer. These things are huge. They are gargantuan. So yeah, I'll make that video when I can get all the information back for those, because a lot of stuff happened in the meantime when I was gone for a while. Like, I had like a lot of time off, as you guys know, because I had a lot of stuff I had to go through. But yeah, like, I'm gonna be getting as much information, new information on those ships as possible for you guys, and I will try to do a video on those. So that basically wraps this video up. Just want to quickly say, if you do want to support the channel, and it does help me out more than people actually know, it really does, you can check out my Patreon. You can support me from as little as $2 a month, and it does go a long way. It helps me basically keep this computer running and whatnot, so I can actually make videos for you guys. So yeah, thank you so much. I just want to say a huge shout out and a thank you to my Patreons. You guys are the best of the best. Thank you so much. And thank you to all you guys, my supporters out there who watch my videos and leave the likes and the comments and they subscribe and all that amazing stuff. I've been making videos for a long time now, and I just want to say thank you all for coming back to watch them. You guys are the best. So yeah, if you do want to buy ships also, I can recommend to you a place called Star Hangar. Check out a link in the description below. That'll take you right to them. They sell ships all year round for Star Citizen, and it's completely safe and fine. It's a really easy service to use, so definitely check it out. You can get ships with LTI on there also. So that'll wrap up another video. Thank you guys yet again for watching. You know the drill, Commanders. Fly safe, and I'll see you in the verse. So, if you're looking for a Bar Citizen event, then why not check out Bar Citizen San Antonio, Texas? A really awesome group of individuals. They host this Bar Citizen event, and yeah, you should check it out. In the description below, we have a link to their Discord, and yeah, you can have a chat with them and see if you can attend and whatnot, you know, and ask them where they are and where the next event's being held. I can tell you now that they are some of the nicest individuals I could recommend to you, because yeah, a lot of the guys there are actually in my organization, and they are really awesome individuals. So go check it out, Bar Citizen San Antonio, Texas.